This is the special board meeting of May 20th, 2025. It is now 6:35. We will begin. Roll call.
President Joe,
Present.
Vice President Lay,
Here on Zoom.
Clerk Chavez,
Present.
Member Odetta,
Here.
Member Cortese.
Here.
Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, invisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. We'll work on our synchronizations of the Pledge of Allegiance in future meetings, but thanks for being here. Welcome to the special board meeting of May 28, 2025. Member of the public, please submit your public comment as follow. In-person public comment may be made in person in the meeting room by filling out a public speaker request form located at the entrance of the meeting room. You may raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak and offer comment in real time. You will have 2 minutes to speak. You may also submit comments electronically online before the hearing meeting 1,000 character limit by accessing agenda link to the form on the district homepage. Please reference the agenda item number in your written comment. Please note, regular and special meeting of the Board of Trustees and Board study sessions are streamed live on meeting night and are also available for viewing the days after the meeting by accessing the district YouTube channel listed on the district webpage at www.ESUHSD.org under the quick links sections. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretations of the meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda and the district website. Should you need in-person interpreter services in Spanish or Vietnamese, please see our interpreter in the back of the room. Item 3.01, the superintendent and the board may request that item be removed from the agenda for considerations and or carried to future board meeting for considerations and or actions.
The administration has no request.
Colleagues? No request, hearing none, seeing none. Item 4.0, hold public hearing approximately 6:38 at this moment regarding the transition to by-district area elections. The public is invited to presentation to be provided by consultant redistricting partner and provide input regarding the composition of the district to be established by the board. Superintendent Van Der Zee, please.
Thank you. And for just a little bit of history, February, the district received notice that someone was calling against the district to make a claim that it should move from having 5 at-large trustees to trustee area voting in the areas within our district. And the district had, or the board had 30 days to say, yeah, we'll begin that process, or no, we want to fight it. And the district and the board, I think at that time said, no, it's time. And I think such an action leads to better neighborhood representation as we plan our future forward as a district. And so the board then voted to, yes, respond, yes, we will begin that trustee area voting process within the 30 days. The law then says you have to hold 5 public hearings available generally to all within 90 days. And so we went back to the person or the entity that made the claim against us and said, look, our district represents 500,000 residents. This is a large area. And so we're asking that we have more than 90 days, but requested 180 to give ourselves more time for you all to become aware of it, 2, to be able to participate in these hearings. And then also what we'll get into tonight is to start generating maps and determining communities of interest as well, as our redistricting partner who works independently with all of your input to generate recommended maps that will go to the board in the final meeting for approval. And we're measuring time and space to see when and where that meeting will be. There has been some interest since the first meeting was actually spoken at the first meeting. Time travels fast. Was that last Monday? We were all together, right? And they said, hey, can we have a little bit more opportunities to learn via workshops? So there'll be a workshop on the northern side of town and a workshop on the southern part of the district. And by town, I mean our district, on June 9th and then on June 30th. So we'll set those up. Those aren't public hearings, but those are opportunities for you to get more information on how to fill out the community of interest form. And then also if you're interested in generating maps or interpreting maps, then Liz will be available, or redistricting partners will be available to lead you through that process. And that's more of a workshop, a time for you to engage in that, separate from the panel hearings. The one thing I do want to remind you all of, because it's if you look at your agenda, this information item is when we get to panel hearings or special board meeting, public hearing 3 and 4, the district must publish any submitted map 7 days prior to that meeting. So that gives you all time to look at what are people suggesting. And Liz will give us some opportunity tonight, like get your pencils out, because we're in class tonight in terms of how to use this tool, how to read a map that someone else has created, and then how you can look at the information associated with drawing a map. And I'm sure many of you will go home charged tonight and create at least one. And then have an opportunity to look at other people's maps for quite a while, right? And like I said, we'll be posting them. I think the date that we have indicated to post is June 12. Do I have that right, Mary Lou? That we'll be planning on posting the first set of maps. And we're doing that intentionally because the meeting then is June 26th, which is not 7 days, but 14 days for you to truly analyze what's been posted, so that when we are together, we can have conversation and give you time to look at the difference between it. It's pretty exciting for us to be able to generate our community of interest and find those 5 district boundary areas, trustee areas, and we'll be leaded in this process by Liz and redistricting partners, mainly interacting with you and the information that you put on the website, what is captured here tonight, and then any maps or other COIs that you decide, community of interest forum that you choose to turn into the district. So these are kind of our opportunities for engagement. Ultimately, at that 5th meeting, there'll be a number of maps that are recommended to the board. That's probably a meeting you'll all be very interested in attending and listening to the conversation. The board will then approve the map that it believes best represents our ability to govern moving forward as a district. And then those maps go to the county for approval. And then they become set. And as we move towards elections in November of 2026, then those maps and areas will be used for the three board member positions that are up for re-election. So that's your history lesson for the night. And it's a quick history. It hasn't been happening for long. And we have a short amount of time to do it. But I think with getting that 180 days instead of the 90, it gives us a little breathing room for all of us to engage. And it is as early as tonight that we're going to start getting the lessons about how to generate those maps and create communities of representation that we're looking for. So with that, you can be done with my voice, and I'll turn it over to Liz. Last time Liz presented, she gave us kind of the law and the background. How did we get here? What does this mean? What are the rules along the way? I don't know if you're redoing a little bit of that tonight, a little bit, but also zeroing in on how to use the map or use the tool for generating maps. And thanks to all of you for being here tonight. It's appreciated.
First of all, I just want to take opportunity to thank everyone for being here. I'm aware before Liz jumping on her presentations, I know some folks are here to make public comment on issues that are not directly related to the trustee area. I spoke with legal counsel a few minutes prior to the meeting started. So we will have the opportunity to do that, but after the main portions of this presentations ended, perhaps legal counsel can elaborate on that front, please.
Good evening. Per the California Voting Rights Act, per the California Voting Rights Act, once the hearing is started, then the board has to maintain the focus of the public hearing to this subject matter continuously throughout until the public hearing is closed. And then, as I mentioned, Mr. President, the board has discretion if they want to allow any other public members of the public to make comments outside of the issue of the Voting Rights Act, then you can allow them to do that after the hearing is closed.
Thank you. I intend to be supportive of the open public comment. Hopefully, my colleagues would agree. Thank you. But it will be after the official discussions on the trustee area is done. All right. With that in mind, I'll turn it back to Ms. Steed, please.
Great. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Awesome. So thanks so much for coming. We are going to go over how the public can participate. So we'll go over a little bit about what we went over last time in terms of the rules, some laws. But really the point of tonight's meeting is to help educate you guys on how you can participate, hopefully empower you so you can feel like you can submit maps, submit your own public testimony. So on tonight's agenda, we're going to go over what districting is, what the California Voting Rights Act is, the public hearing schedule so you know when the next hearings are going to take place, the traditional districting principles that we use to craft maps, communities of interest, what they are, how they're applicable here, how you can get involved, and we'll go over population data and what's next. So districting, at the heart of districting, it's just creating election boundaries. So we're going from at large, so all the board members are elected by the entire district. Going to districting means one board member will represent one area of the district. So in order to qualify for that seat, you have to live within the boundaries. And in order to vote for that representative, again, you have to live within that boundary. So the California Voting Rights Act, just a little background, this law was passed in the early 2000s. And it essentially prohibits the use of at-large election systems if there's evidence of racially polarized voting occurring. Now, whenever a city or a special district or county has gotten a letter, there's been no successful defense against it. So usually the best way forward is to go with districting. You can even look at the city of Santa Monica. They've racked up about $20 million trying to fight it. So the fiscally prudent thing is usually to go to districting. And a quick definition of racially polarized voting. This is something that the Federal Voting Rights Act touches upon. So if there's a protected class, the three most common protected classes in California are Asian American, African American, Latino. If there's a protected class that votes differently than the majority or white population, and they vote cohesively, then that would be a definition of racially polarized voting occurring. So under the CVRA, there are laws in place that is essentially what gives it its teeth.
Can I
So-
interrupt with a question?
Oh, sure.
You just described or defined racially polarized voting. And did you actually find data to support racially polarized voting in this at-large district?
We would have needed to have conducted a racially polarized voting analysis, which is a lot more money. So, but when you look at the other surrounding, like cities, special districts, um, they've all pretty much gone to districts.
So we don't have data for
So
this
you don't
district,
have data, but
because
would
that's a
suggest
pretty pointed definition. And it seems like the data would be either clear or ambiguous or non-existent. So I'm surprised to hear that we don't actually have data, because in my experience, what happens here doesn't fit that definition, doesn't fit the definition. And I'm thinking, well, there must be other reasons, you know? So yeah, just
Yeah.
wanted to share that thought.
that's totally fair. But like I said, there's been no successful defense against it. So typically, special districts, school districts, they usually go to districting. What gives this teeth in terms of the law is lawyers can sue to convince special districts, cities, et cetera, to go to districts. And as long as we're following the safe harbor provisions, that funding or those legal fees are capped. So some of the things that we're doing for the safe harbor provisions include things like the 5 meetings that we discussed earlier. The first 2 meetings are devoted to education and ensuring we're helping the public know how they can participate. So those are pre-map meetings. We don't talk about meetings at those, or we don't talk about maps at those, but the next 3 will be devoted to maps. And then all of this must be completed within 180 days. So usually it's 90 days, but because there's an extension, we're getting 180 days. So even though this won't go into effect until 2026, we still have to get this wrapped up within 180 days. Here is the schedule. So obviously tonight is May 20th. It's the second meeting. Draft maps will be available to you all on the website on June 12th. And any maps that we receive on our mapping tool submitted by the public, all of those will be submitted 7 days, or at least posted 7 days before the June 26th meeting. So on June 21st or June 19th, those meetings or those maps will be posted to the website for everyone to view. It's a transparency measure. And then June 26th is the 3rd hearing. July 15th is the 4th, and we will have a date for the final hearing once we get an understanding of when that should be. So, and we haven't put this in yet, but June 9th will be the first workshop. So it's going to look very similar to this one, but we're going to have things like computers available for people so they can start drawing using Districtor, and I'll be there to help you guys if you have any questions on how to use the tool. So here is the ranked list of criteria that we have to follow. These are standards used throughout the country for drawing maps, but in the state of California, it's also in our law. So this is a ranked list of criteria. The first criteria is each trustee area needs to be relatively equal in size. And when we talk about equal in size, we're talking about US Census population. So we're allowed to have a total deviation of 10%. And that deviation means how far away are you from the average, the ideal size for a district. And I'll teach you how to calculate that at the end. It's very easy. The mapping tool makes it very easy for you to see what the deviation is. And then the districts have to be contiguous. So that essentially just means that it's one whole piece. We're not going from one part of the district and saying, going from one part and then going to the other and saying that's one. It's got to be touching. There are different ways of viewing contiguity as well. So there's literal contiguity, which means you're looking at the map, it's one whole piece, it makes sense. And then there's functional or travel contiguity. So theoretically, you should be able to travel within that trustee area without having to leave the boundaries. This is an example of a travel contiguous map. That highlighted portion, which separates District 5 from 3 and 4, that's a railroad. And the city wanted to use that as a way, well, there's only 3 ways to get over that. So it's very limiting in terms of travel. So they just use that as a boundary. And then make sure the lines are easy to identify. They should be following things like natural boundaries, which include things like creeks or like mountains, or man-made boundaries. So that railroad or highways are often used, especially in this area. And then keeping trustee areas compact. So that's usually where people think of gerrymandering. You see those funny looking shapes, and we're trying to keep it to circles and squares and not ribbons and snakes. So you see here on the left is a map that was drawn before the Fair Maps Act went into effect. And it sort of snakes through the entire city. And then the city came back with an independent redistricting commission and then drew a map that is far more compact. So you can see a huge difference there. The map on the left cuts through communities, neighborhoods, and the one on the right keeps together these neighborhoods. And then maintain communities of interest. So this is one of the higher ranking criteria, and it's really where the public comes to shine in this process. California is very lucky to have a law where it does require the public to participate in some fashion. So when we talk about communities of interest, think of it as a group of people who are like-minded, share similar policy concerns, and would benefit from being districted together. So this includes concerns about public safety, public health, shared socioeconomic characteristics. And the whole point of keeping together communities of interest is people are stronger when they're able to advocate together or when they're able to vote together. So when we cut through a community of interest, we're effectively cutting through their ability to effectively advocate for themselves. So that's why it's so important for us to hear from the community about their communities of interest so we know exactly where they're located, and we can keep track of it through the process. And of course, the Federal Voting Rights Act, it does recognize certain communities of interest, including Latinos, Asians, African Americans. But importantly, unless it's a Section 2 noncompliance issue under the Federal Voting Rights Act, we can't draw based on race. So it's got to include communities of interest. It's got to include common language use, common services used, that sort of thing is what we're looking for. I like to show this to demonstrate how diverse a community of interest is. It could definitely include neighborhoods. Attendance areas are very common in school areas or school districts, tourism areas, historical communities. So usually if you can make the argument that your community is a community of interest, it probably is.
Prioritize those different interests in the previous page, because obviously some are probably more significantly impacted than others, but how do you prioritize them?
Yeah, that's probably your hardest job is figuring out if there are conflicting communities of interest. Usually hearing from the public, hearing how being divided would impact them, and balancing out, like would dividing through a more socioeconomic, like higher up in the ranks community be a little less bad?
Understood. What I mean is because you are providing the first map, am I correct, for the public to review?
We'll have draft maps for
Right.
you.
You will
Yes.
provide the first draft map. How do you prioritize those in your draft maps?
Okay. So usually what we're looking for, particularly, we're looking for communities that obviously are participating. So when we see a community of interest that has been submitted, we'll document it, try to keep it together as much as possible. But we're also following the Fair Maps Act criteria. So sometimes communities of interest do have to be split in order to be a balanced district. And if that's the case, then we'll point out like, hey, we had to sort of sacrifice a community of interest in order to fulfill this higher ranking criteria.
And just to quickly reiterate it, the address of the elected, this board member are not relevant into this determination. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. So under the Fair Maps Act, we cannot consider, it's prohibited, political party affiliation, incumbency, political candidates, and that's there to make sure that we're not politically gerrymandering or incumbent gerrymandering. So that is something that we will be paying attention to throughout the process.
I now have a clarifying question.
Yes.
My understanding was that the first map was going to be composed of what was received
Mhm.
from the community.
Yeah.
And y'all were going to create a draft based on that. But what I heard you say to my colleague was that you all were going to create a draft, not necessarily made up of what had been submitted.
So usually what we do is we take draft maps from the public, and oftentimes they need to be changed a little bit to ensure we're following the law. So we do base our maps off of publicly submitted maps.
Okay, so the first draft will be a combination of following the law
Yes.
and also what the community has been saying to date.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's also why it's very important for the public to participate. So we have maps to base the draft maps off of. And then of course, community of interest really is based on proximity as well. So if you're a community of interest that's throughout the entire district, we're not going to be able to keep you together. So remembering proximity is just as important as common interests. So when you do give your testimony about community of interest, you have a few ways of submitting testimony, but we do like to prepare you guys with these 3 questions. So does the community have a shared characteristic or bond? So what keeps you together and what sets you apart from your neighboring areas? And are there other communities that you would like to be districted with? And then geographic in nature, where are you on a map? So as demographers, we're looking for specific street boundaries, things like landmarks, so we know exactly where your community is. And then how would you describe your community's relationship with the school district and how is it impacted by their decisions? So like I mentioned, there are multiple ways of submitting testimony. Obviously, at meetings tonight, you'll have an opportunity to give your testimony. You also can fill out a form. We do have the community of interest form in the back. It's in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. All those are also on the website. And then you can also submit maps. As a demographer, that's my favorite part. And you can draw 2 different types of maps. So we're looking for your community of interest map. That's there to document your community of interest. You get to describe your community of interest. And then, of course, you'll be able to create districted maps as well. You can do all of that using Districtor. So this is the website that you can log into. It should be ready for you guys to use. And I'll show you how to do that at the end of this presentation. Super user-friendly. You could probably do it on your own, but I'll give you some tips and tricks. It was created, Districtor was created by a group of researchers originally at Tufts University with the idea that they wanted the public to participate in the districting and redistricting efforts. So it was created for you guys. And then all of this, all districting related items, so whether that's the calendar, the districtor tool, public testimony that's been submitted so far, all of that's on the website. You can actually just go on the main page, and there, the second button on the top is the districting page. And of course, you can always email us. So if you want to submit your testimony via email, or if you have questions, you can always email us at districting@esuhsd.edu or org rather. Real quick, we're going to go over the population data. So that's really hard to see. So it's well over 500,000 folks. But most importantly, with this document, whenever you see a map from us, you're always going to get the 2020 census data and the citizen voting age population data. These are two different data sets used for two different important reasons. And the 2020 census data is used to ensure that we have balanced districts. That's what we use. And I'll show you how to calculate the 10% deviation. But the citizen voting age population is what we use to ensure we're following the Federal Voting Rights Act. So that tells us the voting power of protected classes. Both are very important in the process, and we will show both of these data sets for each map.
Why does,
It's on.
okay, why does the data, demographic data, not show a European American / so-called white population?
So we're limited with space. We could send that to you. But the most important, because it's the Federal Voting Rights Act, we're looking for the top 3 protected classes. So we get the Latino, Asian, Black citizen voting age population because those tend to be higher in populations.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know because I've long considered a European American / white
Yeah.
citizen, members of the community to be an extreme minority. I think they're under 10% in our district. Yeah,
So-
it ought to be named.
Yeah, the other CVAP, that's majority white. So
CVAP.
citizen voting age population.
Oh,
Yeah, so when you see the other at the very top, that's predominantly white.
yeah, I think we ought to just have a whole picture for what we're looking at in this district that ought to include another significant part of the population
Sure.
and where they're concentrated.
Yeah. Great.
It's in the tool.
It is in the tool, and I'll show you how to look that up. Okay, so that's the presentation. I'm gonna spend the next like 10 minutes to show you how to use Districtor so you can start drawing your own maps. Get this down. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, there we go. Okay. So going to the website I mentioned earlier, this is the Districtor page devoted specifically just for the school district. It goes over the rules of the road. And then you have the option to draw either a community of interest, and that's the orange button, the orange-red button, or a districted map. So let's go over how to draw a community of interest first. So you see it takes us directly to the district. When we want to draw, we use the brush. And then we can go into our community of interest and just hold down the mouse and start populating. And then you would name your community of interest here. And then describe how it's impacted by the board and why you should be maintained as a community of interest. You can draw as many of them as you want. You just hit this little plus sign, it'll populate different colors, each representing a different community of interest. You can also put in your important place. So when you hit the important place here, hit the new, you can pinpoint exactly where it is and then describe how it's important to your community of interest. And then you can, if you drew too much and you want to erase them, you go to the eraser button. And you can change the size of the eraser along with the size of the brush. So if you want to just get rid of one, or if you want to add a whole bunch at the same time, you have that option. We have data layers in here as well. Oftentimes school districts use attendance boundaries to sort of help gauge where they are. So we have some attendance boundaries in here. You just go to the data layers and hit on boundaries. You can turn it on and off.
Could you clarify what attendant boundary means?
Like
For the public, sorry.
the high school attendance areas. And then evaluation, this is a little bit more important with the districting portion, but you can look at the breakdown of the overall population and the citizen voting age population. And you can also look up the what we call like a heat map for different groups. So here we can see the density of the citizen voting age population for Asian residents or Latino or Black, American Indian. So we have a whole bunch of and white folks as well. So we can get a sense of the density of these protected classes as well. So that's how you draw a community of interest. When you save it, you just hit the save button at the top, and then this will pop up and it will ask you, do you want to share now? And it goes straight to the gallery, and I'll show you what that is in a second. Or you can hit on work in progress and then come back to it at a later date. So the work in progress is not considered public testimony. That's there to make sure that you feel like you can have a think, come back to it, and then submit when you feel comfortable. If you do share now, it instantly becomes public testimony. It's great in that sense. You don't have to send an email. We'll see it, and then we'll be able to share it with the board. And then, of course, you
Excuse
can,
me.
yeah.
I'm imagining that someone could also simply draw maps designating community of interest on whatever criteria. That doesn't go the whole district, doesn't make, 5 districts. It just says this is a community of
Yeah.
interest that we want reflected in a map.
That's
and
right.
just submit that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
'Cause
Yeah.
I was thinking, someone has to like draw 5 districts.
No, for the community of interest maps, good point. The size of the population doesn't matter. We're specifically looking for communities so we know where they're located. And I'll show you how to draw districted maps. So when you're drawing your communities of interest, don't worry about the population size. There are no rules when it comes to that, but there are certainly rules when it comes to districted maps.
So those are the two distinctions. So members of the community who happen to be here in this room, they can selectively to draw just what they consider to be their community interest from their perspective. They don't have to draw the entire 5 maps. That's
right. So getting into the districting, you can draw using that purple button. So it takes us back to the map. It's now a little colorless, and that's because we're going to start drawing on it. So when we hit on this brush, you can see it gives us 5 colors here, and those represent the 5 trustee areas. So when you start drawing, you'll, first of all, there is this line here, that's the ideal size line. So that is the target that we're aiming for when we're drawing districts. So let's just go ahead, I'm just randomly drawing. You can see it starts populating and we're getting closer, and then we hit that deviation. This deviation right here, it's 1.1%. It's fine if it goes over a little bit. If you hover over it, it's going to tell us how much that deviation is. So when we're calculating the total deviation, we take the largest deviation percentage and then the smallest deviation percentage in terms of the negative number, and we add up the absolute value of that. And I'll show you an example. So I'm just, again, randomly drawing. And I'm trying to get to that. So here we have a deviation of negative 4.63. If we were to calculate the total deviation of this, assuming that this is fully districted, it's going to be about 5.7%. So that's how you calculate the total deviation. As long as it's under 10%, it's assumed to be constitutional. So that is how you draw that. Again, we can go to data layers, look at the attendance boundaries, go to the demographics. We can look at the, again, just like before, we can check out the heat maps, the density of these groups. And then when we go to evaluation.
Sorry, can I
Oh,
pause
yeah.
real quick? Can you zoom in so people could see that they could actually see the level of the street name?
Oh, yeah.
So that way, if people are like, I want to make sure that this is my area of interest, or this is exactly based on whatever is top
Yeah.
of mind for them, that they see where they're drawing the line. You see, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. Yes, so you absolutely can zoom in. It's going to show things like parks, important places, grocery stores, things like that, along with the names of streets. So if you can't read the street names, just zoom in, and you'll be able to see it. So when you are drawing, I do recommend that you, when you're happy with your districts, I recommend hitting the lock already drawn districts button, so you don't inadvertently draw over it. So you can see here, I can't draw over the district, but I can if I undo that, and then it just draws all over it. So make sure you hit lock already drawn if you're happy with that district and you don't want to mess it up. And then you can also look at the evaluation side. So you can look at the citizen voting age population, which again is what we use to ensure that we're following the Federal Voting Rights Act. So very important data set. It's the same data that we get. So it's kind of cool that you guys get to use that as well and be demographers. So your maps could be just as, if not more legitimate than anything I create. So we're very much looking forward to seeing maps submitted by the public. And again, when you hit save, you can share now or put it in work in progress. You can name it after yourself. You can name it after a theme in your map, or you can leave it unnamed, but you're going to have a unique number for each map that's submitted so we can track it throughout the process. So some people like to submit it anonymously, and that's people's rights. But I do want to recommend that if you submit a districted map, that you followed up with an email or let us know, sort of advocate for your map so we know the logic behind it. That is very much recommended. So that is how to draw using Districtor. I'm happy to take questions either from the board or the public. And
If I were to engage in this exercise, communities of interest, district maps, tentative, I would be interested in also having the data of where our current school site boundaries are. Where are those lines, as part of data that I would want to look at in playing with maps and communities of interest?
okay, we can,
Yeah, you go back to that. Saw that earlier.
the attendance boundaries? Yes, yes, so we do have that in there.
Oh.
And that's and that's available on both the districted map option and the community of interest option.
Could it be available as an overlay over where I'm, sketching boundaries? So if I see something that's just this far apart, I could extend them and join the line or.
Yep, this is an overlay, and we can also overlay it on the draft maps that we send to you guys as well. Yeah, that's
All right.
no problem.
Before we go to the publics, I'd like to offer the opportunity to our other two colleagues that are online, if they choose to jump in at any time.
Mr. President, one last comment.
Yes,
here.
sir.
What would also be interesting, not necessary, but interesting to me is to see where the lines are for the city council districts.
Okay.
Trustee Chavez.
Okay, do you have to live within the east side in order to create a map?
I mean, technically you don't have to be a resident, but again, you usually carry a lot more weight when you're a resident and you submit a map.
Is there a way that that's verified?
No.
Okay. I wonder if that should be taken into account. Right.
You can definitely, if that helps you guys, it's up to the
Mhm.
board. Yeah.
We shall see how many maps we receive, and then we go from there, and how much of that. But any other questions from our colleagues online? Trustee Lay and Trustee Cortese, if you, otherwise I'm going to go to a public comment, and then we can always circle back to you.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you, Trustee Cortese. Feel free to jump in if you have additional questions, but we have a couple of public speakers. I'm going to start with Ms. Hong Ha Huan, who is the Activity Director at Andrew Hill High School.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members, superintendent, and the community. My name is Hong Ha Huang, and I'm the activities director at Andrew Hill High School and a trustee in one of Eastside feeder districts. And I care deeply about how we create equitable representation for our students and families across our systems. As Eastside moves towards trustee area elections, I want to emphasize the importance of a community-driven process, one that includes our feeder districts, city council alignment, and the people we ultimately serve. Representation isn't a one-size-fits-all. Our communities are diverse, not just racially, but also culturally, and in lived experience and needs of the community. Trustee areas should reflect that diversity. I also want to make sure the public can fully participate. That means making mapping tools mobile-friendly, which I did try on my mobile to make sure a little bit ago, and offering community sessions where folks can support using these devices so they can access these tools. Not everyone has a laptop at home. A lot of my families don't, and they usually use their mobile devices, and that shouldn't limit their voices. And while trustees represent the entire district, it's also meaningful to have leaders who live in and deeply understand the specifics of the communities they live in and they serve. So my asks for tonight are, I have three. One, make map drawing platforms fully mobile accessible so families don't have to have computers at home in order to access it. Two, host in-person mapping support sessions at school sites and in the community, especially neighborhoods that have been historically underrepresented. And three, coordinate with feeder districts and other local offices to inform families about how to participate, why they should participate, and why this is important. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a clock, but we'll stick with the 2 minutes rule for the next speaker as well. Next speaker is Melissa God Lopez. 2 minutes. No official clock, so I will know you pass it, but
Thank you for that, President.
yeah, Glenn will give the signal.
Okay. So good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent. I'm happy to be here tonight as a neighbor within the Eastside Union boundaries. I'm also a former Saint and a parent of a Mount Pleasant Cardinal and a community member in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. I'm here to support you, the board, in your thoughtful, collaborative, and data-driven process to ensure that these new boundaries and our new elected leaders fairly represent our neighborhood schools, our neighborhoods and schools, and will effectively speak for our students and families. I want to make the big point that as a person who has lived within the San Jose city my entire life, I, as many of you, recognize the diversity and the inequities in our city of San Jose. I'm here tonight to participate in this process and ask the board to ensure continual outreach from all stakeholders, provide transparent discussions, ensure equity when drawing boundaries. And these boundaries should consider preservation of current identity and culture, balance of power, our future populations, and that each community, no matter how large or small, is considered. Most importantly, the boundaries and school clusters must ensure that our students and families who need the most from our schools are represented and heard. So not always the loudest voice, but really your job is to look and see who needs our help the most. So I want the board to remember that every student's success, regardless of their school or boundary, it's your responsibility, and this process is no different. Your continued attention and your continued diligence is appreciated and recognized. So all you've already done for our students, continue on that process. So I thank the board for this opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to the draft map, and I look forward to the continual process.
Please
Thank
say
you.
your name again.
Melissa Gott Lopez.
She's a school board member.
Yeah,
Mount
I-
Pleasant.
Mount
So
Pleasant.
I'm not representing the school board. I'm
Yes,
here as
yes.
a neighborhood advocate and a community member. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional question or public comment about trustee area before we close? Any other questions? Anything else? Only on trustee area, and then we'll get to that later on. Is it by trustee area? Or? Yeah,
No, microphone.
microphone.
Go to the
Yeah,
microphone.
yeah. And you will have to fill this out afterward. You can do it afterward. That's fine.
We have some people on Zoom that can only hear your comments if you are on. the line.
Yes,
I was basically interested with the mapping.
yes.
Is it based on population or also based on area?
So
Can you hear me?
yeah,
Oh.
we have to base the balance districts off of census data. So the districts can be different in terms of size geographically, but it's got to have the same relatively equal number of population.
It's more about population, so
Yeah.
it's not about how the size of the
That's right.
area.
And I believe that population by area is about 107,000.
Yeah.
About 107,000
I
per
want to bring up one thing. First of all, like I come from a very connected community. Like if you look at South San Jose, we're already connected. One thing I would say that's overlooked is many of us come from elementary schools too. So it's good also to include that because the elementary school and intermediate school come into the high schools. It's good to also look at that, take that into consideration. All right, thank you.
Okay, this is not the
President-
norm. Oh, did someone say something? Was it
Go
just-
ahead. If I was going to say something, but go ahead, Lorena. I'll go after you.
Okay. A question for Hung Ha. You said you were looking at the tool on your phone. Is it currently usable?
Come up on the mic, please.
Sorry, just.
Yes, you can use it on your phone. I have nails right now, so it's kind of hard to press the little, I guess, are they called precincts or whatever on the map? Like maybe if I had like an Apple Pencil or something, it might be a little bit easier, but I don't know. It's fine. It's just like I might have fat fingered some of the, yeah.
Trustee Cortese.
Thank you. That last comment about feeder districts is very interesting to me. And I'm wondering, this question is for Liz. Is it possible to get an overlay of the attendance boundaries, not of, we have our schools, we need to keep that, but can we get the boundaries of our feeder districts as well?
Yeah, we should be able to find that. So I believe it's available online, or we can even ask the schools, but yeah, we can find those.
I think
Um,
that's important. Yeah, thank you.
I
Yeah.
thought I saw that.
We
in the
have
map.
the high school attendance areas, but not the like elementary or middle school.
Because I thought I saw somewhere it says like Elm Rock and the like Oak Grove and different areas, or that's not the case in the data piece when you were going through the layers?
Some of those names were listed as like large neighborhood names, like the Alum Rock neighborhood and other neighborhoods. So we'll have to go in and look to see the feeder districts. So just for those that might not know, Eastside has 7 feeder districts. So, and they vary in size and they vary in population, and then they vary in all the ways demographically that people have lifted up here tonight. So another helpful lens.
And I realize the folks who are here may not represent that district when they're here, but they are within our feeder district. That means we are generally a great amount of interest. I see good folks from Franklin McKinley School District, Mount Pleasant, and I know that there is a community college that many of our students will eventually maybe taking class from. So there is strong amount of interest, and then we could always do even do more outreach, but certainly there's a strong interest in making sure that all our community are represented. Now, I would take any additional comment or questions from Trustee Lay, please.
I was wondering that how can we help the parents as well as the people that they not familiar with the drawing map that could help them in the school that we have right now in the district that they're living right now, because I know that even though anyone, well, maybe the younger generation was very fascinated and very strong on particular drawing map. And that's my question. How can we do that? Make sure that the entire community has their voice to be impact on the drawing map. And my second question is that, we've been reaching out to other community as well as feeder district, but any other mechanism to let, other different stakeholder to have some implement their voice in a drawing map? So that's my 2 questions.
So first one, we'll start with the 2 workshops on, help me now, June 9 and June 30. We'll have one in the southern area of the district. We'll have another in the north. Also, all these lines are available. All these tools are available online. All you have to do is Eastside Union High School District. It's right on the top left. Everything will be there. For some people, they will find probably a greater input in generating a map. For other people, it will be in just naming their community. This is who we are. This is where we live. This is where we identify. This is our place of worship. This is, whatever that is. There's multiple ways of getting input in. And so we will continue to keep those tools online and also to hold those workshops, as well as the meetings like this going forward.
Thank you.
Any additional question from my colleagues? Any other from trustees? If there's no additional question from trustee and no question from the member of the,
I see some signs out in the audience, but I can't read them from here.
That's for the later.
Oh,
Eric.
oh, okay, thank you.
all right. Since there's no additional questions or comment from member of the public or from my colleagues, I'd like to take the opportunity to close the sections of the district trustee area and open for public comment for any other item. You still need to fill out one of these forms. If you choose to speak. You have it.
Just a reminder that I'm getting the thumbs up that that mapping tool is now officially on the website. So you
Yep.
can go there and access it starting now.
Right.
But to manage expectations,
Right.
the feeder district boundaries won't be on until we can get that information uploaded.
Right.
And do know that we'll be posting the first set of maps on June 12th,
Yep.
but we will also be holding a workshop on June 9 before that date. So
Okay.
you've got plenty of time to develop maps and then also to review those of others before our public hearing on June 26th.
All right. Now that we close the public comment on the public hearing on the portions of the trustee area, I'm opening up for the public comment for the public hearing portions. The first name that I have is Mr. Ha Jiu. You will have 2 minutes. Our superintendent will wave and he will let you know.
I have plan. Okay, I need a translator.
Right.
I speak in Vietnamese faster than I speak English, so I need the translator. So I just
Like
speak in
the
Vietnamese
strategy.
and he translate to you. Okay.
That's the strategy.
So if I speak English, maybe take.
Yeah, we'll get the 2-minute Vietnamese version and we'll translate it.
All right, so we'll
Like-
start with the 2 minutes in Vietnamese and we'll have a translator.
Okay. Dear member of the board.
You want to speak to the mic, please?
Yeah. Tôi xin phát biểu thay mặt cộng đồng người Việt gốc Mỹ về một mối quan ngại được nêu lên bởi các thành viên trong cộng đồng trường trung học Buna liên quan đến khả năng loại bỏ vị trí chuyên viên hỗ trợ phụ huynh và cộng đồng người Việt do hạn chế về ngân sách. Với tư cách là một đại diện của một trong những khu đa dạng nhất là về ngôn ngữ và văn hóa trong tiểu bang, tôi tha thiết kêu gọi chúng ta xem xét lại bất cứ quyết định nào có thể dẫn đến việc loại bỏ vai trò hỗ trợ thiết yếu này. Nhân viên hỗ trợ phụ huynh người Việt đóng vai trò quan trọng trong việc kết nối giữa nhà trường và phụ huynh, đặc biệt là những người gia đình gặp rào cản ngôn ngữ. Sự đóng góp của họ giúp phụ huynh nắm bắt thông tin và tham gia tích cực vào quá trình giáo dục của con em mình. Yếu tố đã được chứng minh là có tác động lớn đến sự thành công của các học sinh. Trường Buna có một số lượng học sinh gốc Việt đông đảo, đứng thứ 2 trong trường, có việc sự hỗ trợ phù hợp với văn hóa và ngôn ngữ không chỉ là điều thích hợp mà còn là điều cần thiết để đảm bảo sự công bằng. Nhân viên này hỗ trợ thông dịch, kết nối gia đình với các nguồn tài nguyên cần thiết và tạo dựng một môi trường hòa nhận, từ đó tăng cường niềm tin và gắn bó của phụ huynh với học khu. Tôi trân trọng đề nghị chúng ta ưu tiên giữ lại vị trí này và cùng tìm giải pháp thay thế để tiếp tục hỗ trợ cho các gia đình người Việt tại trường Buna.
Made it. Is this the translation?
No. It's him, but it's not the translation. It's the summarize of what he said.
Shall I read it? Or does she want to translate?
We have a translator. Yeah. This is a summary.
Is that preferred?
Yes.
This is Mr. Han Triu, and he represents the Vietnamese community. He was concerned of the reduction of the Vietnamese parent specialist at Yabuana, and he believed that this person helped to connect the school with the family and help students to achieve. And the reduction will have a big impact to the Vietnamese community. And Mr. Trieu highly recommended the board to reconsider this decision and bring back the Vietnamese-speaking parent specialist, so that person can help students at Yabubana who have difficulty in language barrier. Thank you.
Thank you for the translations. Are you able to see the sign now? Or you wanted the sign closer to you? You're good. All right. Next speaker, Luan Vu. Thank you. And of course, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, President Doe, members of the board, Superintendent Vanderzee. My name's Loanne Vu, and I am a parent of students here at YB. I am here along with my fellow community member of the school. We are concerned about the parent to be here to address sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm retained with the Vietnamese parent and community involvement specialist at YB. As a member of the Vietnamese community, a parent of 2 YB students, I see firsthand of the Vietnamese community and the parents, how the parent coordinator helps the Vietnamese parents and families. As you may know, YB has one of the highest population of Vietnamese students, comprising of 30 of the Vietnamese out of the 30% out of 45% Asian. The Vietnamese parent coordinator has played a vital role in assisting Vietnamese parents in understanding and navigating the school system, offering translation, interpretation services, and effectively communicating with Vietnamese families to keep them informed and engaged. The effort have not only strengthened the relationship between the school, students, and families, but has also promoted a sense of belonging. The removal of the Vietnamese parent coordinator position at YB would not only negatively impact the Vietnamese families, but would also be a detriment to the entire school community. I implore the school board and Superintendent Vanderzee to acknowledge the importance of the Vietnamese parent coordinator here at YB. Let me ask you, on the LCAP, goal number 5, increase attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism. It says, we will engage with and connect students and families to appropriate staff, support, and problematic learning option to increase student attendance in school. Let me ask you, next year, we do not have a Vietnamese principal. Currently, we do not have a Vietnamese counselor. If we remove the parent coordinator, the Vietnamese parent coordinator from YB, how are you going to achieve this goal? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comment or questions online? Oh, all right. That is it. Are there any? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. There's one more. I just got this. Kenny Chan, last speaker. Sorry, Kenny. That was not intentional.
Good evening, board members, Board President Brian Doe and Superintendent Glenn Vanderzee, and Board of Trustees, and good evening, members of the community. My name is Kenny Tran, and I am a student here at Yerba High School. And tonight, I'd like to speak on behalf of students and families who are affected by the proposal removal of the parent coordinator position. Yerba High School has over 1,600 students. About 42% of us are Asian, and many come from Vietnamese-speaking families. For those families, the parent coordinator is often the only person that can help them understand school information, communicate with teachers, and find support for their kids. Removing this position will hurt those families. Without someone who speaks their language and understands their culture, parents will be left out. They won't know what's going on in the school, and they won't be able to help their children the way that they want to. This isn't about a convenience. It's a basic access. Many families rely on this person every day to stay informed and involved. Taking that away is unfair and harmful, especially to the immigrant families who already face challenges. As a student, I see how much this position matters. I see the trust parents have in this person. I see how students and other family how students perform better when families involved. It's the district. If the district is serious about equity, then this must include protecting the roles that serve communities. I understand schools experience financial decisions, but cutting this position is not a budget choice, it's a values choice. It says that the support for immigrant families, language access, and cultural are not priorities. It sends a message that some families matter less than others. I'm asking you to keep this position at our school. It makes a real difference, and taking away will make it harder for students like me and other families like mine. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions or comment. All right. No other speaker? Oh, I see some any others of these? Please. All right. Next speaker, Amy Vu. Welcome, Amy, and you have 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Vu, and I'm here to address the issue of the removal and relocation of one of our parent coordinators. When I first joined the YBHS campus, the first thing I noticed was the large community of Vietnamese students and families at our orientation day. Our demographic here at YB includes a large majority of half Hispanic and Vietnamese, along with other smaller minorities. And as a Vietnamese student myself, I've had firsthand experience with interacting with other Vietnamese students who are still developing English speaking skills or haven't fully accustomed to our school environment. In my role of co-president of my Vietnamese Student Association Club, I've been granted the opportunity to work with and help other students of Vietnamese backgrounds to acclimate with the school environment and providing them a welcoming community with our cultural club of VSA. However, who's to take on this role with parents or immigrant families of Vietnamese backgrounds who are struggling with language barriers and want to learn and be involved with the well-being of their children? This role belongs to the Parent Community Involvement Specialist, and it's an important resource to our community here at YB. Even as this is my last year as a student here at YBHS, I stand here to speak for the future of students, such as my younger sisters and immigrant families or families with those with language barriers in the Vietnamese community. To help the communities thrive here at our school, it's essential to keep a Vietnamese representative through the position of Parent and Community Involvement Specialist. I hope that you can take my words into consideration and put the best interests of students and families at heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gotcha. Saw that. Next speaker, Valerie Vu. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hello, my name is Valerie Vu. I'm here as an 8th grader to address the issue of the near removal of the parent coordinator. Dear esteemed members of the school board, I stand before you today on behalf of countless families in our community to speak about the critical importance of the Vietnamese parent and community involvement specialist position that must be preserved. The Vietnamese parent and community involvement specialists translate not just language, but meaning, emotion, and intention. They attend meetings, help register students, connect families with housing, food, mental health services, and so much more. They assist every family with dignity and ensure no one is left behind. For students facing hardships, whether academic, emotional, or personal, the Vietnamese parent and community involvement specialist is often the first adult who listens without judgment and helps build a path forward. She partners with counselors, health workers, social workers, and community agencies to ensure no child falls through the cracks. Let us be clear. If this role is eliminated or reassigned, it will not just be a staffing change, it will be a loss felt deeply by hundreds of families. Intentional or not, It will send a message that the families who rely most on this support are not a priority. In an era where we speak of equity, inclusion, and student success, we must remember that equity is not just a concept, it is a commitment. And the Vietnamese Parent and Community Involvement Specialist role is one of the clearest examples of equity in action. On behalf of the students, parents, and families who rely on her every single day, I urge you, please keep the Vietnamese Parent and Community Involvement Specialist role at Yerba Buena High School. Let us continue to build a school system where every family feels seen, heard, and supported, no matter the language they speak or the background they come from. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker, Isaac Kyle. You will have 2 minutes.
It's unrelated, but this is something that came up. I'm from Santa Teresa High School, and we have an issue where we want to designate that 1200 building. We need it to be designated. It's currently is used as a daycare, or it was used as a daycare. I think you've heard about it. It's a simple thing. I think one of the door need to be blocked off, the old bathroom and the kitchen. And this building can be used for ESN program. Is that something we can do quickly?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
We cannot respond to public comment. I apologize. That's one of the rule. All right. No additional speaker online. We'll give it that there is no additional. I will adjourn the meetings. It is now 7:51. Meeting is adjourned.